In the past few weeks, you may have noticed an increase in the number of congregants who are beginning to come forward to share their reactions to the assigned Sunday readings. This strikes me as a very cohesive activity that can lend itself to stronger bonding throughout our congregation, and I hope we can grow this weekly activity with your help. We learn from one another in many ways. For instance, I learned from Mike Attanacio's reflections several weeks ago in that he told us the collect on any given Sunday can offer us the theme to the other readings for that day. Thank you, Mike. Well, today's collect tells us, whatever we do with our lives, it must be done with the spirit of love. Without love, whatever we do is worth nothing. These are strong words. This mandate comes to us from the Lord himself. With the assistance of the Holy Spirit, we are to embody this love and share it with others throughout our earthly lives. We are to do this unconditionally, regardless of how we may feel about our fellow human beings. We cannot settle with the easy formula to love those who love you, to do good to those who are good to you, to pray for those who wish you only good things. Wouldn't it be nice if life were so easy, so simply spelled out? But God expects us to also love those who may detest us, to make peace with those who do not want it, to be productive members of society right along with others who may not seem to give a hoot. It is not ours to turn our backs and walk away when life's misfortunes create people or situations that are just too hard to deal with. We must find a way, if there is a chance we can lessen someone's suffering or misadventures, even if we do not like their attitudes or their customs or their language or their politics. God's love is all-inclusive, and he wants ours to be as well. Look at the example of Joseph, as told today in Genesis. Joseph was the 11th of 12 brothers. He was the undisputed favorite of his father, Jacob. All was not equal and loving among the brothers. And Jacob apparently had no compunctions at all about treating Joseph as better than his siblings. Remember the beautiful and resplendent cloak that Joseph received, to his brother's great envy? Besides having his father's special attention, Joseph was blessed with some unusual talents, and he may well have been a bit showy about this. Joseph could interpret difficult and troubling dreams for some people that helped their understanding. However, it was not helpful when he shared with his brothers a dream he had about them all. In the dream, Joseph and his brothers had all gleaned a number of sheaves at harvest time. As Joseph saw it in his dream, his own sheaf became suddenly upright of its own power. But those of his brothers first surrounded his own and then fell in homage before it. This was obviously not well received in brotherly camaraderie. At some point, the brothers were all out together tending to their father's estate. Far from home, and completely annoyed with Joseph's obvious favoritism, the brothers proposed a plot to kill this annoying, privileged brother. Couldn't they have had a family meeting or an intervention? One brother finally suggested that they merely throw Joseph into a deep pit and let the wild animals have their way with him. Is this plan much better? A passing Midianite trader bound for Egypt came along, and the brothers then decided to sell Joseph into probable slavery. They never expected to see him again, and reported back to Dad that Joseph had been attacked and killed by a wild animal. What a dysfunctional family. But all of this sets up God's plan for Joseph. It is not for us to wonder why. Fast forward 11 years, Joseph was taken to Egypt, where he was retained in jail as a foreigner. Then it was noticed that he could helpfully interpret disturbing dreams, something that badly afflicted the current Pharaoh. And so Joseph came to Pharaoh's attention because of this God-given talent, and the two men formed a powerful alliance over the years. Joseph earned many positions of high rank, authority, and great responsibility. After correctly predicting a long series of drought and famine, Joseph developed a successful plan of food production and management that helped Egypt avoid total starvation. Because of Joseph's stewardship, Egypt did survive the worst of the droughts, and Egypt was actually able to assist some other surrounding nations as well. This is why Joseph's brothers had been sent to Egypt seeking assistance in surviving the same fate. We can also see parallels between ancient Egypt and our world today in light of the mismanagement of resources, the acceleration of climate change, and other environmental catastrophes. Unprotected overuse of our environment causes catastrophic effects for all living beings. This is what can ensue when we do not properly care for the natural gifts God has bestowed upon us, when we are not good stewards for our own planet Earth. For the traveling brothers, though, thoughts of Joseph were so remote that none of them even recognized their brother, as they were brought before him as a powerful magistrate in Egypt, who could hopefully help them in their distress. Joseph, of course, did recognize them, but kept that to himself for a bit. This is where we see the tie-in with today's message to love others without reserve, no matter what our preferences, no matter our past. Joseph was sold as a slave by his brothers, abandoned as a huge inconvenience to their lives. The fact that he escaped a dire fate and rose to levels of great civic responsibility in a new land was all part of God's plan. But Joseph, as a human being with human reactions and emotions, could have had them jailed or even killed as threats to himself and his new nation. Instead, Joseph chose to welcome his brothers, to cry over them, to help them, and arrange for his entire clan to come and settle in this new land where they would no longer be so threatened by famine. Joseph chose love over vengeance, and certainly most of us would agree that he had a strong case of righteous anger. But Joseph also advised his brothers not to fret and worry over their past misdeeds. He firmly states that in his mind there's no harm done, as this was all God's plan all along. God arranged for him to leave Canaan, to be accepted into Egypt and its political structure, and be able to help remedy the dire natural catastrophes in the natural world at that time. Joseph is committed to the belief that all of this was part of God's plan from the beginning. So why should his brothers wallow in their guilt? I do not know how many of us would be as ready to forgive such a heinous act on the part of our own loved ones, but Joseph refuses to go there. Yes, they did him wrong, but look at the good that the Lord has made from all of this. Joseph chooses to see the good and the wonder in God's scenario. Joseph refuses to wallow in the negative vibe of what his brothers have done. Joseph leaves it all to God. Verses 8 and 9 of today's psalm also sum this up. Do not fret yourself over the ones who prosper, the ones who succeed in evil schemes. Refrain from anger. Leave rage alone. Do not fret yourself. It only leads to evil. If all of us can take a piece of today's lesson with us and implement it in our lives, we will have a better world where there is not so much tit for tat, I'll get you back mentality. Instead, be like Joseph, who overlooked some pretty disgusting violence from his own brothers to forgive them, and arrange going forward to share safety and security with them and all their clan, because this was all part of God's plan. Thank you for this opportunity to share thoughts with you today. Please know that I learn many things from all of you all the time.
Amen.